Greetings, YouTube. So on December 9th, I posted a video asking for questions for my future 2,000 subscribers Q&A video. At the time, I had 1,964 subscribers, and I figured it would take me a month, 2 months to hit 2,000. Well, it's December 21st, and I hit 2,000 this morning. So I was a little off. Apparently, I'm not a good guesstimator. So, first off, I would like to thank everyone that subscribed to me. I appreciate your presence here, though I will have to admit I am often confused why you're here. But you're here, and now I have a bunch of questions that I need to answer. I'm going to go through these as quickly as possible because there's a fair amount of them. Okay, first up, in your 48 years of life, what have been the most important lessons you've learned, the most important bits of wisdom you've gleaned from others, and the most important piece of advice you'd tell yourself 24 years ago? Compassion is the key to our salvation. Fear is the poison that shackles us all. And go see a cognitive behavior therapist. Scenario: robots slowly replace the workforce from bottom up. As intelligence increases, so does their presence in higher positions, eventually leading to mass unemployment and highly concentrated wealth and instability. Question: do you think America as it is ready for this fundamental change in society, and can it cope change in time to protect against this scenario? No, we are not prepared for that. We are not going to be prepared for that. There's a group of people in the United States that would love that scenario to happen because it means that they wouldn't have to pay people. You'd be looking at an even greater divide between the wealthy and the poor, and an actual creation of a total underclass comprised of 99% of our citizens and 1% at the top having all the political and financial power. It would make dystopian future sound like a day in the park. In your many years of role-playing, what was the most interesting and creative dungeon you encountered? Did you run it, or were you a player? I would have to say it was probably Under the Storm Giant's Castle by Judges Guild. I was a player, though I have run it as a GM, and I think that my answer is very heavily biased because of the people I gamed with, and it was one of the first major adventures and tasks that we accomplished when I was very early in my role-playing experience. How do you DM villains since you do not like evil stuff? How do you handle the whole killing aspect that is common to many RPGs? Well, as a player, I don't want to do things I consider immoral. But as a GM, bad guys do bad things. So I have my bad guys do bad things. As far as being a player, I can justify killing in defense of myself, my character, or the defense of the innocent. And I realize as a GM that anything I present to the characters, to the players rather, anything, no matter how horrendous it is, pales in comparison to what has actually happened in human history. Is it safe? A Marathon Man reference. Very nice. It is never safe. There is only safer. If you could create a role-playing game slash PC slash board game completely to your will, no matter the cost or technical possibilities or to your skill, what kind of game would that be? Well, it would be a tabletop role-playing game, and it would have a two-tiered structure. The first tier structure would be mechanics, and the mechanics would be broken into 3-tier levels. The first basic tier would be the old school style, the absolute bare minimum number of rules you need to run the game, requiring a lot of ad hoc, on-the-fly decision-making by the GM. The intermediary tier of the mechanics would be what I consider a complete role-playing game, with all of the rules that would be able to handle probably about 90% of the daily tasks in that game, so the GM doesn't have to make a lot of decisions. And then the highest of the mechanical tier levels would be something very similar probably to Hero, with all the bells and whistles, and it would look a lot like a chemistry book, much like Hero. It would also be a 5-tier power level system, where you'd have a basic tier, and then you go all the way up to epic tier. And I was playing with this idea when 3.5 was still wet behind the ears, long before 4th edition was even ever considered. So the whole tier idea is not new to anybody out there. So 4th edition does not own that concept. But that's how I do it. It would be a fairly complex system at its highest level, but at the lowest level it would be stripped down and would allow even the most ardent retro clone fan to love it. And I do not have the skill in any way, shape, or form to write it. What are 3 ways political correctness is detrimental to the culture and or society? It puts certain topics into a no discussion zone, it limits our options for action and reaction, and it stifles creativity. What is the most you've paid for an RPG product? Is there a limit on how much you are willing to spend on an RPG product? Which one RPG books are you most proud of that you have in your collection, and why you're proud to have it? And how do you suggest catching a wild rabbit? I would probably have to say the new Hackmaster 5th edition, leather-bound edition, which it costs $60, and I have sitting on my shelf, which arrived yesterday. That would probably be the most expensive I've ever spent. That is probably the upper limit I would spend on a book. And it was someone else suggested it. I don't own a leather-bound RPG book, or at least I didn't. Now I do, and I haven't had a chance to really look at it yet. And my favorite, or the most cherished, would probably be the 1st edition of Metamorphosis Alpha, because it was like, I believe it was the first science fiction role-playing game I ever purchased. I can't remember if it was that or Gamma World 1st edition. But I love that book, single book. It has a lot of great memories, even though it's a horrendous mess. And when you say how to catch a wild rabbit, if you mean catch as in like live, I would suggest a Have a Heart trap. If you mean like acquire a rabbit for consumption, if in low tech, I would suggest a rabbit stick, which is a stick designed to be thrown at a rabbit to kill it. Or if it was a little higher tech, I would suggest a .22 rifle. How do you feel about contact lenses? Ever tried them? I can't even put eye drops in my own eyes. Contact lenses are not an option. How comfortable is it to have a cat sit on your shoulders? And can I train my cat to do the same? It's not the cat sitting on my shoulders that I mind so much. It's the claws that are often involved in the mounting and dismounting. And I did not train her to do that. In fact, for a really long time, I went to great lengths to dissuade her from doing that. I failed miserably. Eventually, I just stopped resisting. Is there anything that you would make you shave your beard off other than medical necessity? No. Would you say your best role-playing days are behind you or ahead of you? I would like to say ahead of me, but I can't tell the future. If you were to recommend one fiction book and one non-fiction book for your subscribers to read, what would they be? I'm going to cheat here because I have more than one aspect of my personality. So for my theistic side, I would say The Power of Myth by James Campbell. For my social justice side, I would say Savage Inequalities by Jonathan Kozol. And for my analytic side, I would say The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. And as far as fiction was concerned, I would consider Armor by Steckley, whose first name I don't remember. He also wrote the book Vampires with a money sign at the end. Also very good. Would you ever do a Let's Play of your RPG group for YouTube? If it's okay with them, of course. If you were to write a sequel for a movie that never got one, which would it be and what would happen? Well, I don't really have the equipment to do a Let's Play, so that isn't really an option. Not to mention, I would not even want to fathom the size of that file. And I could be snarky and say that I would love to see a sequel to The Matrix. But I would have to say a sequel to Buckaroo Banzai. And what would happen? Awesome. Awesome would happen. Do you have an altar? Not a permanent one. I have set up temporary ones on occasion. My Samhain video from 2012 is an example thereof. You have been in the hobby for quite some time. What do you deem the most distinguished ways in which RPGs have changed over time? What major changes have you noticed, and when and why? I would think the divide that happened when 4th edition was released, because that really split the gaming community in a way I had never seen split before. Now, people will tell you that there was a split between 1st and 2nd edition D&D. Never saw it. There will people who will tell you that they saw a split between 2nd edition and 3rd edition. I never saw it. For me, that split happened then, and it pulled our gaming community apart in a way that I don't think it's ever going to come back together, to the detriment of the hobby. I would say, what major changes have you noticed? The evolution of narrative games, an entire school of games that I have no interest in. But I think that's probably the most significant change I have seen in the hobby. What would you like to achieve in the next 5 years of your life, be it your personal life or at work, Also, why did you start vlogging? I would like to physically and be in better condition than I am now. I am working on improving my strength and stamina, so that's important to me. I would like to finish my therapy. And I started vlogging because I wanted to become a more involved member of the YouTube community, inspired by the Vlogbrothers mostly. And I'm frankly an opinionated bastard. All the discussions involving power gamers steer towards how to nerf them or how to get your revenge against said gamer as a GM. What is the way to accommodate the power gamer? Why punish them for their playstyle while maintaining some sort of balance with the rest of the playgroup? Well, you can indulge the power gamers easily enough by giving them things that they have designed their characters to oppose. That's pretty straightforward. But if you want to give them a challenge, play to their weaknesses. Sure, you're a Varanbon badass and you can take on a dragon with one hand tied behind your back. What do you do when the crops fail in your settlement? Or an earthquake screws up your irrigation canals? Or a bandit takes a pass and yet you find out that he's got a charter from another kingdom and you can't just kill him? What do? You have to do things other than slay them. So again, play to their weaknesses. Would you like to sorry. What was your cat's name, and what is your cat's name? What do you have more than one cat? The cat that often sits on my shoulders, the orange tiger, is named Mandarin. She's a female. I have 2 other cats. You'll occasionally see a white and gray cat who's rather fat. That is Spam, also female. And you will occasionally see a gray tiger. His name is Makana, and he is a male. Where does one get a hat like that? I want it badly. You find it at a thrift store and pay $2 for it. Can't help you more than that. It's got no label on it. Do you think it's morally permissible to download, print, and bind out of print RPG PDFs if you don't own them but can't find them anywhere else? Well, if a copyright holder isn't willing to accommodate the public, it doesn't leave the public a lot of options. If you could change one thing physically about you from a non-health related reason, what would it be? I would like to be 6 feet tall. What is the meaning of life? Compassion, knowledge, and spiritual enlightenment. What model is your webcam and microphone, and do you use any editing software? This is a Logitech Pro 9000. I'm just using the microphone that's built into it, and the only editing software I use is Movie Maker. I know, that's kind of sad. What do you think of medical cannabis? I think it helps save lives, and I would decriminalize all drugs. What do you feel are the most important issues facing the human race going forward? Fear, and how we get rid of it. You're the last person alive in the world, and the extraterrestrial force grants you the ability to choose one person to join you. This person can be from any point of history, can be a loved one, can even be a fictional character, as long as this person is human, no powers. Who would it be? No one. I can perceive of nothing worse than to be the last person in the world. I would not wish that on anyone. I would try to communicate with the extraterrestrials until it was my time to pass. Do you own any guns? Yes. Also, what is your ideal day off for you? Well, if my wife's with me, a leisurely morning, we go do some kind of activity in the morning. Could be thrifting. It could be something dealing with, a community event. It could be some shopping. Then we go out for lunch. We come back. We handle our chores and things in the afternoon. In the evening, we go and hang out with some friends at Starbucks. This is a standard Saturday for us. If I'm alone, like on a vacation day, like I'll have next week, because I'm on vacation until January 2nd, it's usually me getting up, having a leisurely breakfast, chatting with my friend Amelia in Britain, going out hitting some thrift shops, eating some lunch, maybe doing a craft project in the afternoon, chatting some more, maybe doing a Skype conversation, and then spending the evening with my wife. What are you most proud of about your channel? Well, I actually had a subscriber once tell me that I changed their position on marital equality, and I convinced them to support it, even though they themselves do not feel that being gay is a moral position. So that's a pretty darn big thing if you ask me. I got someone to make a major change in their life. What will you be your next familiar? I would love to have rats, but I really can't justify having rats when I have Makana around. He has a really strong hunt instinct, so it will probably be another cat. What inspired you to post videos about topics you care about on YouTube? What was it, a special event? Like I said, I'm an opinionated bastard, and I hoped to make a change. Would you ever permanently move to a different country? If yes, which one? I would never voluntarily move to a different country. If I had to move to a different country, it would be Canada. What are some ideologies or ideas that you had when you were younger, which you now find bad, stupid, unrational? Well, I was conservative, so that was kind of silly. I was angry at the world. That was also kind of silly. And I was an atheist, and I've come to realize that that was a position that I cannot agree with any longer. So those are probably it. Do you train, or have you ever trained in the martial arts? No, I have not. I have been in armor doing sword and board combat in the SCA once. I've done archery. I don't know if you consider that to be a martial art or not. If you do, I did it when I was younger. I've trained with firearms, but that's about it. In your opinion, what is the possible approach for a common Joe and Jane in tackling the superbly corrupt and dominating ruling body of the state? Well, for me, the ruling body of the state are the 1%ers, and the 1%ers can be best brought into control by taking away their money, and we do that by progressive taxation and making sure they keep all of their money in the United States and making sure that they cannot bribe politicians. Their political power is based on their economic power. Take away their economic power. How about a review on the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing system? What's your take? Well, I haven't read that particular role-playing game since it came out in the first edition, and I have almost no memory of it. I don't see myself rereading it anytime soon, so I don't think that's going to happen. I apologize. And here is your last question. Is there any way to justify earning $100 to $200 billion over a lifetime as an individual, or can such wealth only come due to corruption and a moral system? Would a person who works 16 hours a day every day in advanced human technology greatly deserve such money? I think that it definitely is possible to achieve the levels of that wealth and do it in a moral fashion. It is highly improbable. But for example, David Hirsch, the artist, is that wealthy because he created artwork that people really, really wanted. And so, for example, he sold a piece of art, and this is a living artist, a piece of art that netted $100 million. It was a solid platinum skull with 600 diamonds on it, or something like that. It's an obscene number of diamonds. So yes, I think it is possible. It just isn't probable. Most of the businessmen out there in the world, or businesswomen who've acquired levels of that wealth, first off, often had a boost up by being born into that class, and then use their money to game the system and harm the rest of us to get even wealthier. There are exceptions to that rule, but not many. And a lot of them, once they get to that position, use their wealth to game the system some more. Some of them will do philanthropic work with their wealth at some point, but that doesn't stop them from also still gaming the system to their advantage. I can't think of anyone who was completely moral at that kind of level in the business world. And off the top of my head, the artist Hirsch is the only one I can think of that pulled it off in an even vaguely moral manner. That kind of money is pretty much 100% corrupting. And it's terrifying, and it gives them power that they don't deserve, and it lets them create a world where the rest of us are their vassals, and that is unethical, immoral, and it should be illegal. So I apologize if I end this particular Q&A session on such a down note. I just picked the questions in the order they were asked, and that's the order they were asked in. So again, I would like to thank all 2,000 of my subscribers. And let's do another one of these at 3,000. So maybe it'll take less time to hit 3,000. Who knows? I have really enjoyed producing videos for all you folks. I do this every day because I like it. I don't do it because, you know, I'm paid to do it or I'm forced to do it. I do it because it's a hobby. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't get feedback from people. So again, thank you. And I look forward to any comments that are below in this particular video.